Hey everybody, it's Duckville here. We've had a bit of a patch today, 30th of, what is it, 30th of July today, or at least it is here in Australia. It's Tuesday. If you're joining us from across the other side of the world, or perhaps you're in the future and you're looking back at some of the old patches that came through, or perhaps it's me looking back at some of the old stuff that I've put up on YouTube. Anyway, I thought we'd have a quick little, just a little, overview of what's happened in this latest patch. Of course, it's not a huge game-changing patch in the sense of lots of balance kind of stuff coming through. It's more so a couple of mainly interface-related changes that are really cool to have, and of course a bunch of bug fixes. I've kind of labeled this myself as the patch with very minimal changes but very cool changes. Some of these various things that Blizzard have added in. Now, for everyone who is tuning in, of course, this overview may come up actually just before it goes live in some of the other regions. Here in C, we discovered that there was, I believe it was something to do with window mode or full screen mode or something like that. There was some errors when people were switching between the various resolutions. I think that's what I've been told on the Twitters and things like that. So there has been a bit of a delay by roughly, Blizzard guys have said a day, but of course we all know soon. So hopefully it'll be up and running very soon, and you guys will be able to check out the new patch. Now, what I was going to do is just go over few key things. Of course, you can see just across to the side there we've got a few of the big changes that have been added in that I wanted to highlight. So the first of those is the interface related updates and changes. Now, of course, as everyone knows, with Heart of the Swarm, the interfaces were added in, which are really cool. You can customize your own interfaces. A lot of people use. There's a couple of sort of very common ones that have been floating around, and of course, the big one that I like to use is the Game Heart interface, and that is no doubt going to have a little bit of an update after this patch as well, once the guys do get across that. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty it's going to be a really nice change that Blizzard have added in some of their own interfaces, so that you guys can, if you're not very well versed in creating the interfaces like myself, I'm terrible at it. I had a go, but I was actually just very, very bad at it. So there are quite a few. There's two in total, I believe, that were put into the game. So in fact, let me just have a look. I'll see if I can bring a couple of them up for you. But first, actually, I suppose we could have a look at the Streamline one. I actually have to throw up a picture for you guys because I didn't want to have to mess about with my own setup. So there is the Streamline version, which looks a little bit like this. Wait, that one there. Yep. The minimal one, it's very familiar. Like, I mean, this is very similar to what a lot of the overlays look like, the standard sorts of one used by a lot of the folks, where you've just got production tab looking, all the statistics tabs up in the top left look very similar, all normal to the standard sort of overlays set up there. They're a little bit bigger, so you can see them there. The counters up in the top right, the resource counters, are also a little bit bigger, just for visibility's sake. Of course, the rest of the UI down at the bottom section has been cut out, and you can see with the unit selection, it's very similar to the one that they use over in GSL. So that is the Streamline 1v1, which they put into the patch. You'll find that in your the generic sort of directory is my documents /starcraft/interfaces. That's where all your interface files are kept. And then the second one that they put in is the Split, which looks a little bit more, it looks a little bit cooler, I suppose. You've got this nice little, the name Split up the top, showing who the players are in the game. The resource counters and things like that have been split up just a little bit, and of course the production tab is split across to the left and the right. So there are a couple of little differences in there, so that if you want to, you could work off these kinds of things yourself. Like, you can start modding them yourself if you're fine with working with the files there, the interface files. It's actually, I'm told it's pretty easy. It's just that I don't know, my brain, I can't get a hang around that kind of stuff very easily. Never could, even when I was doing an IT course at school. So anyway, so there's a couple of interface files you can play around with yourself. Of course, generally speaking, these only work when you're spectating or when you're watching a replay. So don't expect this to change your actual in-game experience, because that could be a bad thing to sort of set up. But anyway, moving on. There is now in the custom games tab, I know through myself when I'm live casting, and of course I know a lot of tournament admins, you sort of think, well, my tournament only runs ladder maps. Why do I have to bother trying to search through to try and find these maps on the ladder when the maps that we use on ladder that I'm now using in my tournament? So Blizzard have now added in the custom games section, you'll find a ladder maps option to just quickly show you what maps are currently being used on ladder, so that you can practice with a friend. You can set up a tournament match, as we mentioned before, and it just makes it a little bit easier. As I said, tiny little things this patch, but very cool things. The next thing that they added in after a little bit of a controversial moment a little while ago in a high level match is that there is a notification for when a spectator, a player, or a referee changes the speed of the game during the match. Now, to me, I kind of wonder, why would you just make it so that you can't change the speed when in game? Like, I know there's certain times when, if you're coaching someone, you might want to change the speed around or something like that. But I mean, all in all, I mean, I don't think it matters too much. But either way, at least that's in there. Helps out if players are suddenly playing at a very slow speed and it's just it gets a little bit wacky. The next change that they also have is that just sort of a very small minimal thing is that the destructible rocks, I should have actually included this in the last part of this little rant, but destructible rocks, a lot of people will see that when you destroy rocks, sometimes the I don't know how to phrase it, the base of where the destructible rocks came from disappears. Sometimes the rocks don't actually appear properly. All these weird sort of things that were happening. Apparently, for the most part, that has been fixed up. So that should, it helps out a little bit. I mean, sometimes you kind of, you look on the minimap and like the rocks will be gone, and either it's kind of like having a map hack in a way, and you kind of know that the rocks have fallen down so that you can't actually go through that path, and other times it's like, well, the thing said that they weren't down and now it is, and I don't know. Either way, rocks are being fixed is the bottom line. That's the big thing. Dustin Browder is very happy about that one. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is that the replay functionality has changed over a little bit. Just to, apparently in the back end, it's just been fixed up just a little bit. And from what I have, well, from what I've kind of had a look at myself, it's basically just making it like, you know, it's kind of like having it's like having a VCR, like an old videotape, if you're too young to remember what VCRs are, where instead of fast forwarding at your normal sort of speed, you're fast forwarding at a super speed. That's like the best analogy to kind of explain this, unless you get to play with it yourself. Instead of being like a DVD where you can actually jump to the scene, let's say you have a 2-hour game and you want to actually jump to 1 hour 45 minutes straight from the start. It's not as if it will go, bam, we're over there right now. It actually says, all right, we're going over here. We're gonna go, you know, charge up the batteries, and we're gonna go into hyperspace because we're going really fast across to there. So I still think it's a little bit weird, because this kind of thing was also available in Warcraft 3, and I'm like, all right, whatever. But either way, it helps out with fast forwarding through certain things. I know in the I have a couple of 2-hour games that I've recently had a look at in some replays, and it would have been nice to just jump straight ahead. But either way, so what I'll do is I'll actually show you guys how this works. So here we have just a simple sort of game with myself. Of course, I am using the GameHeart overlay, if you were wondering. That is available over on teamliquid.net. I'll put it in the description for you if you don't have it yourself. Now, as we can see, this game, standard sort of game, just went for around about 19 minutes. So let's say at the 15-minute mark, I knew that there was something cool that happened. So what we'll do is we will drag the little I don't know, the slider bar thing here, and we say 15 minutes. All right, cool, let's go. So it'll seek. And that's basically all it does. Like, it goes very fast, and I don't know, my APM looks nuts, but like this is the thing, is it just kind of seems like, all right, well, we're just going to fast forward through something very, very quickly. So I don't know. Either way, the screen, as you can see, goes black there, and the replay basically just zooms ahead, I guess, is kind of the cool thing about it. So speaking of zooming, actually, what we'll do is we'll just take it back a second here so that I can show you guys another big function that they added in, is the actual zoom function, which has now been which is something that was available in Game Hard, but now it is actually available in standard, the standard sort of setup. Even if you have a custom overlay like this one, or a custom interface like this one, you can use the zoom function. Now the zoom, you just press the Z key or Z key if you're from the States or something like that. Just simply press the Z key once. Bam! We get a little bit of a higher view there. So basically, that'll allow you to see quite a lot of a base, or perhaps you know, part of a battle or something like that. Then, if you want to go even further out, Shift and the Z key, and then that'll take you out to an even higher view. And then you just need to, obviously, simply take it back down yourself with one of those two combinations, and that gives you a nice little, it gives you a really cool little view of what's going on. So, and I believe, if I remember correctly, you can actually, yeah, you can sort of maneuver around to give yourself like a super high level view. You can see what's going on and all these kinds of things. So that's actually really, really cool. I really love that addition to the system. Now keep in mind, this only applies to if you're a spectator or if you're in a replay. And it only applies for games that are post 2.0.10 patch from today. So you won't be able to do this in any of your old replays. So you know, don't go into an old game and expect to be able to zoom out like that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, the technology was not available at the time. So that is effectively our zoom function. Another big thing we've had change in this patch is a colorblind mode. It's obviously not something that will affect everybody out there, but you know, it is helpful to have that that colorblind mode properly updated, where alternate colors are displayed when you're using the display building grid. Also in team games, they just adjusted a little bit so it's easier for I believe it's mostly for obviously just generally for colorblind folks who have a little bit of trouble with certain combinations of colors, but also it can help out specifically with some kinds of colorblindness, like red-green colorblind and that kind of standard thing. So it also will change the placement grid textures regarding unbuildable locations. You know, when you go to build your command center or something like that down at the natural, and it sort of says you're too close to the minerals, but it's only just this sort of weird reddish sort of color. Now it'll be that same sort of red color, but with some crosses on it, where it's actually unbuildable. So that really helps out the colorblind folks there as well, if they were having any trouble, but I'm sure they've adapted already. Given how it has taken a little bit of time to get this one out. The minimap terrain has also changed over a little bit in the colors when you do select that mode. Now, selecting colorblind mode is as simple, jumping into the options menu, and you can find it, I believe it's in the gameplay tab, and that'll give you that little addition to your play, like if you are colorblind. And I can partially understand. I'm slightly red-green colorblind, so there are certain times when I've looked at things and I've said, you know, what is that? Or, you know, I haven't really been able to identify something correctly compared to what my friends have or something like that. But anyway, that's another story. Let's talk about our last section here. As we said, this patch has had a lot of general bug fixes and just general sort of fixes and that kind of stuff. I wanted to highlight a couple of them that were actually that I thought were really cool. As we said, this patch has been mostly little tiny changes, but very cool changes. So I'll go through a couple of them. For folks like myself who have had issues with the Cybercore and the spawning pool building, once it builds, it's like something to do with textures or something like that, and it just halts your PC for like a second, maybe two, if you're unlucky. That was an issue for me that I had quite a lot, and it really, really annoyed me. You know, I can run the game on ultra settings, yet anytime a Cybercore completes, for the first time you run through building a Cybercore, it'll freeze your computer for a second, just for a second. But that has been fixed, which is awesome. There is, for the map making guys, I've never made a map myself because I'm terribly you know, horrible at creating things, so I've never actually dived into map making. But there have been a couple of interesting things, at least from my perspective. They look pretty cool. Support for map symmetry. You can set up rectangular, diagonal, or rotational symmetry configurations for your maps. If you want to save yourself some time with building that terrain, that is a nice little addition there, I believe. If you're a map making dude, please let me know if there's something similar that you've been using instead, or if that's going to save you a heap of time and you know, hype. Cheers for Blizzard, just post in the comments. Also, speaking of which, multi-region publishing is also available. I did not even know that was something that wasn't available to the map makers, so I'm sure that's going to save a little bit of time as well. Other couple of things that have changed include fixing the game camera. All the observers out there will know what I'm talking about. The observers or casters will know what I'm talking about with this one. Fixed an issue that occasionally caused the game camera to pop after using the drag scroll to engage the follow unit feature. I guess it's really hard to explain this one, but basically if you followed a unit, if you use Control Shift and F when you're spectating or when you're in a replay or something like that, you follow a unit and it does it all automatically. You can take your hands off. It's just easy. It's like 1Aing or something like that as Protoss. But and then when you try and use the drag scroll, which is the middle mouse click, your scroll bar click, and you try and drag off that unit, the camera will go wacky. It sort of goes like, it sort of, as it says, it sort of pops off. It just goes bam and just sort of pops off to the side. It kind of looks really weird, but that's a little thing. I'm kind of happy that they fixed that, just because it was one of those little things like a thorn in your side, where it's not actually that really devastating to gameplay or anything like that, but it's nice that they fixed that. So also another interesting one is that burrowing a Widowmine can no longer cancel Graviton Beam. It wasn't something that obviously comes up too often, but given that especially nowadays with the Gym Protoss PvT build coming about, a lot of Protoss players have some Phoenix these days in PvT, and it can really help to use them to try and bust any kind of mineral mine drops or anything like that. So cool little change there to make sure that works as intended. SCVs and mules now share the same what's it called? They share the same repair command. So instead of now having to grab all your SCVs, right-click repair, or just press repair and then try and click onto a building to save it, you can now actually just right-click and you won't need to tab through or anything like that. That wasn't, and again, a very tiny thing, but something that really helps out. This is all these kinds of things that really help out with gameplay in the long run. Also, for the Zergs, of course, we've spoken about Protoss and Terran a little bit. Here's one for the Zerg players. Swarm Host, the eggs that they pop, the Locusts, of course, a lot of the time, you burrow a Swarm Host, they'll drop down, and then while they're dropping down, you set your rally point, and you say, all right, let's go AFK that base over there. The first round of Locusts wouldn't necessarily do what they were told. They would either just sit there, or they just, you know, not do anything at all and then just sort of slowly get across. So this has been fixed up. No longer will the Locusts sort of disobey their commands, I guess is the best way to put it. They will properly follow their waypoints while they are eggs, which is the key thing there. So no real sort of changes to the way I mentioned this on Twitter. A couple of people were talking about how Swarm Hosts, you go to burrow them and then you set the rally point as well. Sometimes if they're trying to burrow on the same spot, it's like they cancel their burrowing and then just decide to run to the rally point and die. And that's why you can see sometimes even pro gamers will have random Swarm Hosts that will just die because they've run into you know, an army line or something like that. So nothing about that. I don't know how that's going to be fixed. I think that's just purely mechanical thing that might not be able to be changed. But anyway, we'll see what happens. As we said, this has been patch 2.0.10 or 10 if you're cool. And then we've gone through some of the things there. Of course, as we said, this patch will be delayed for a little bit here. It's currently, as we said, 4:55 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time on the 30th of July. So I'm expecting it to come out within the next 24 hours. It shouldn't take too long, especially as it is Blizzard Maintenance Night. Servers and, you know, WoW and things like that will go down. So expect that to come out very soon to a region near you. Thank you all for watching. If you want to see more of these kinds of little update videos, please feel free to post in the comments. Let me know that you like this kind of stuff, and I'll endeavor to do it in future. Cheers.